If you've ever wondered what the most important mechanic to learn might be, you aren't the only one. The question gets asked all the time. What should I train? What should I work on if I want to get better? It comes up every single day. So today, I've taken a list of 30 mechanics and put them in order of what I think is the least to most important mechanic to learn. Now, a little disclaimer, these are my own thoughts and you will probably disagree with me a few times on the list, and you're more than welcome to do so in the comments. And so without further ado, I would like to start with number 31, Freestyler Mech. Now, I know I said there were only 30 mechanics, and that's because I wanted to get this one done really quickly, and so I added this little extra point. You do not need to learn freestyler mechanics. You don't need to learn heli resets and hay on dashes and everything like that. The rest of this list will be mechanics that are actually useful in game. Number 30, double resets. Double resets are like the very entry point to freestyle mechanics, but still can have some use in competitive games. They can be useful for trying to throw your opponent off and leave them guessing as to where you're going to shoot, but apart from that, a single reset can be just as useful and as much easier. You don't need to dedicate time into learning this mechanic until you're just learning new mech for fun. Number 29, stalls. Now, stalls are another one that aren't really useful, but could be used to throw the opponent off at the last second. However, once again, something like a normal flip reset can accomplish the same thing and can be much easier to achieve unless you're on keyboard. It's really easy to stall on keyboard. Number 28, Sidewall Redirects. Sidewall Redirects are edging on the side of freestylery, but they get used a lot in higher ranked games. Learning to read the ball from the wall becomes very useful once the game is a faster pace, and so while I think it's definitely a good skill to have, I wouldn't count it as a very important skill, especially when trying to rank up. But it is something good to learn once you get a bit higher up the ranks. Number 27, the Breezi Flick. The Breezi Flick is a fun flick that can be used in very specific circumstances, but you can probably achieve the same power from a simple Musty Flick. However, it is nice for a flashy play, but not much more. Number 26, Pogos. Despite the recent success of the young player Dark, Pogos aren't that common in ranked matches, and for good reason. You need a decent amount of room, boost, and a good setup to pull them off. If you do manage to pull them off though, you could very easily find yourself beating defenders pretty consistently. Number 25, flip cancelling. This is a mechanic that is primarily used for a faster recovery in a competitive game, as it allows you to land on your wheels a bit faster. However, I would say the difference isn't that important in 95% of the situations it's used in, and for that reason I wouldn't say it's as useful in game as some of the other mechanics on this list. Number 24, the Musty Flick. As much as we all love Musty and his flick, it's not an absolute necessity when it comes to what mechanics you should be learning. It's great for generating power and catching the opponent off guard, but it doesn't come up all that often, and once again, there are often better shots you could go for 95% of the time. Number 23, chaining Wavedashes. Chaining Wavedashes both on the ground and on the wall are great for recoveries and building up speed from very little. However, once again, there are very specific situations where doing this would be better than just pathing over some boost pads or flipping back. Now you might be starting to get the trend here where some of these mechanics, yeah, they're good, but there are better ones that should be used instead. Number 22, redirects. Redirects are something I train quite often and try to go for whenever I can in game, as they can become a quick counterattack or a way to score from an unusual angle that the opponent might not expect. However, understanding redirects and how to contact the ball the right way takes a decent amount of time and often won't end up in a goal. You can still try to learn them if you want to try something new, but don't expect them to lead to any goals. Number 21, air dribbles. The mechanic everyone wants to learn. The air dribble is a great mechanic for both attacking and just trying to clear the ball from your own half. But these days, people have gotten so used to dealing with them that it's getting harder and harder to use them effectively. I would argue there are more useful, game-impacting mechanics to be learned that will have a better success rate when it comes to winning the game. Number 20, pinches. Now, when I say pinches, I'm not meaning ceiling pinches or ground pinches. While they are both great, I would say the normal wall or cuxer pinch is a bit more useful when it comes to quickly clearing the ball from defense to give yourself and your teammates some more space. And hey, you might actually score with this sometimes. But mainly I would say it's a good mechanic to start learning just to help yourself out on defense. Number 19, ceiling shots. Ceiling shots are like the flip reset's younger brother. They achieve the same goal of getting you in the air while maintaining your flip, but the ceiling shot is a bit more predictable of a setup, and you also need to be near a wall the majority of the time when you go for one, whereas with a flip reset, you can perform this from multiple places. Number 18, flip resets. As no surprise coming from the last one, the flip reset is an incredibly useful mechanic and my favorite mechanic by far. It can be used in many situations, and once perfected, you will be a dangerous threat on the field from various positions. However, the thing that holds me back from putting this higher on the list is that many people will just pre-jump you and stop you from getting that reset in the first place. There needs to be a bit of a setup with resets, and the higher up the ranks you get, the more perfect you have to be with each attempt. Number 17, air dribble bumps. I struggled trying to place this one on the list, as on one hand it's just an air dribble and then a little bit extra, but on the other hand, if you can get good at these, it is almost a guaranteed goal every time. Look at the players like Yan. This is an incredibly dangerous mechanic to add to your skill set, which doesn't take too much to learn. If you can already air dribble, you should start learning this right now. Number 16, double taps. The double tap to me is like the one mechanic that can be seen as flashy that I actually recommend people try to learn. Once you get them down, they are by far the easiest way to score goals in a net that is being defended. And you can score them from so many different positions around the field that just learning how to read the backboard bounce can give you way more opportunities to score. Number 15, bounce dribbling. At the halfway mark, we have a mechanic that I actually don't use that often. In fact, I can't remember the last time I went for a bounce dribble instead of a flick. But that's just me, and that doesn't mean that they aren't good. Bounce dribbles are a really easy way to generate power from very little momentum, and if you aren't comfortable with your flicks or dribbling, you should definitely try to introduce this into your gameplay. Number 14, speed flips. The famous flip everyone wants to learn. There's not too much to say here. It is the fastest flip in the game, and so once you start to use it in your games, you become a faster player on both kickoff and just getting around the field in general. Number 13, shadow defense. Shadow defense is an important skill to learn, especially in the 1v1 scene, as it allows you to easily challenge your opponent at the correct time, while also buying you time for your teammates to get back if you're using it in 2s or 3s. Now, shadow defense is one of the harder important skills to learn, as it's every bit about being able to read your opponent as it is about timing and challenging. Number 12, half flips. The half flip is one of those things we often teach lower ranked players, and for good reason. It's an incredibly useful, incredibly simple mechanic that will get used every single game by every player at least once during kickoffs, but also throughout the game. It's the best way to turn around quickly and therefore should be known to everyone. Number 11, Wavedashes. The half flip and the wave dash have always been hand in hand for me. The wave dash comes out a little bit more useful for me as it can be used in more situations, recovering from a bump, coming off the wall, gaining a little bit of speed. The mechanic is just a very helpful way to maintain momentum or to generate it. Kicking off the top 10 are kickoffs. You obviously need to have a solid kickoff no matter what rank you are, as you can easily control a game through just a good kickoff alone. Understanding the kickoff and how to change the outcome can give you and your team multiple opportunities in a game that you might not have had otherwise. It can also completely win you a game if you're playing ones. Number 9, backboard play. This one might catch a few of you off guard, but learning to use your backboard, especially on defense, is absolutely huge in the later ranks, and the sooner you learn it, the better. I believe you could absolutely destroy Diamond and Champ games by learning how to defend using your own backboard, as it can very easily cancel out all the fancy mech like air dribbles and double taps. Number 8, power slides. Power sliding is pretty much the basis for all recovery mechanics and is very useful as it gets used hundreds of times each game. You'll start to do it without even thinking, and once you have it down, it's not only going to make you a faster player, but it will also let you become more fluid with your movement and starting to flow while playing rather than looking stiff and uncoordinated. Number 7, flicks. Flicks could have been further up the list, but 7 feels about right, as once you learn just about any flick properly, you can immediately bring it into your games and you don't need much of a setup at all. Flicks of all sorts can result in some easy goals if you just understand the timing of your flicks. Plus, if you're a ones player, they become a staple in your gameplay. Number 6, dribbling. This goes hand in hand with flicks. However, I have put dribbling slightly higher due to the fact that you can very easily score by just dribbling around your opponent. You can cut in and catch them off guard, you can quickly counterattack with a good catch and dribble. You have a lot of opportunities to dribble in a single game, and so learning how to dribble and moving away around the pitch goes a long way no matter what rank you are. Number 5, rotations. Our top 5 starts off with rotations. I'm unsure if it's counted as a mechanic, but I've decided to count it anyway. Rotations are easily one of the most important aspects of the entire game, as it allows a team to work together without having any contact. And once one person is out of rotation, it is very easy to see your entire defense fall away. If you haven't done so already, start learning even basic rotations before you dive into some of the more strategic rotations. Number 4, recoveries. Recoveries are key for staying in the game. The amount of times you get bumped or you land weirdly or you just have to get back on defense after a play, your recoveries will play a big part in getting you back on your wheels and getting you back into the game. Poor recoveries often show up in slower players, and faster players will often have incredibly fast recoveries. So if you want to speed up your gameplay, this is the first place to start. Number 3. Air rolling. Another aspect of the game that every single person wants to learn. This time, I approve though. Air rolling is by far one of the hardest parts of the game to learn. However, once you do, you unlock a whole new way to play the game and you're able to shoot and move in a way that you've never been able to before. Air rolling is easily a top 3 as it's constantly used by everyone that knows how to do it for many reasons. Number 2. Aerials. I doubt this would be much of a surprise to many of you judging by what's left, but aerials are pretty much half the game. Once you start to understand how you're able to keep your car in the air, your whole understanding of the game changes and you have to literally change the way you play to keep up with everyone else who can also aerial. Literally used across all games by all players from gold and above. If you do not know how to aerial at this point, start learning. Last but not least, the aim of the game, shooting and scoring goals. This should be a no-brainer to all of you as the most important aspect of this entire game. If you can do everything else on this list, but you can't score, then you're in some trouble and you won't be ranking up anytime soon. Every player at every rank, no matter who you are, should be taking the time to train their shooting whenever they can, as any sort of improvement is going to make you just that little bit better. With the list done, I'm aware that I've probably missed some mechanics like the licks jump and the zap dash and probably a bunch more, but with those, I haven't either seen them being used enough to get a good gauge of how useful they are, or I don't think they're useful, or they're just too freestylery to be considered an important mechanic to learn. With that, thank you to everyone who submitted clips for this video, thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.